Hey, it's Ed. Today we're going to talk about ngrams. So what are ngrams, how they help you improve keyword performance in Google Ads, and how you can use them to find negative and positive keyword ideas and see trends in the data. So firstly, very quickly, what are ngrams? Well, Wikipedia tells us that in the field of computational linguistics and probability, an ngram, sometimes also called a qgram, is a contiguous sequence of n items from a... Let's try that again, this time putting it in the context of Google Ads. So your keywords are triggered against search queries. They might be the same as your keyword, a close variant, or wildly different. The problem comes when you're trying to analyze these search queries on a individual case-by-case basis. Not a problem for a tiny ad account, but in most accounts there are thousands of search queries to sift through. So this is where ngram analysis comes in. It's the process of splitting each of those queries down into its individual grams. A 1 gram is a single word, a 2 gram is a phrase made of 2 words, and so on. So let's do a quick example. If your prospect search query is red running shoes, then you have 1 grams of red, running, and shoes. Then you have 2 grams of red running and running shoes, and of course the 3 gram is the red running shoes. Now in my example I'm using one search query, but these individual ngrams are pulled from all queries that contain those grams. So for example, the word red might be in 1,000 search queries. So you can then review the metrics for each of those grams to identify the performance patterns. This gives you ideas for positive and negative keywords. For example, you might see that red is high spend but low ROAS. But how do we actually get the ngram data out of Google Ads? Well, there are free scripts out there that get you started, and they are basic and limited in functionality. And quite frankly, there's a better way. Of course there is, because I built it. It's called Ad Evolver Search Query Steroids. So let me run you through how you can use that to see the trend data. Okay, so we're now inside Search Query Steroids. And the cool thing about this is we've got all our single grams, 2, 3, and 4 plus grams at the account, campaign, and ad group level. We have also trend data. So we show this account is a target CPA account. So we show the target CPA for this gram over the past 12, 6, 3, 2, and 1 months. So what we can do is quickly see which queries are potentially a problem. Because they're red, that means they're quite a bit over the target CPA of this account. But what we can quickly do is look for 0 conversion single grams. And it looks like this account is being kept on top of because the spend has dropped from being incredibly wasteful to 0, which normally means that they've been negatived. But this is at the account level. We can do a lot more at the campaign level. So if we drop down to campaign, we can immediately see that there are some queries paused off, for example, call. But we can see here that we have a really high spend 1 gram. And of course we can start shuffling through 2, 3, and 4 plus grams. So the other cool thing is if we want to find really wasteful single terms, we can click wasteful, which shows high spend and low conversion. Okay, let's do an example. So let's say I want the query to contain mortgage. So I want to look for search queries that have mortgage in them, and then I want to look for campaigns that don't have mortgage in the name. So essentially what I'm looking at here are these mortgage queries triggering in a non-mortgage campaign. Okay, so let's look for some wasteful queries. So there's only one 1 gram that contains the query mortgage and isn't in a mortgage campaign, and it is a high CPA term, so we could negative that. It hasn't spent recently in the past month, but that doesn't mean it can't. So we could literally tick it and then add as a negative. I'm not going to do that because it's a live account. And then we could look for 2 grams. It's the same thing. So we've got all these wasteful queries and we could negative them all. Or 3 grams, or 4, and so on. Let's drop back to 2 queries, just clear these out. And I'm going to look for 0 conversion grams. Let's see how much we've got here. These are all 0 conversions. And you could, if you wanted to, negative them all. Let's say we're looking for wasteful queries. So these are queries that are spending over the target CPA. And again, you can quickly see here there's lots of wasteful terms. This is sorted by cost, but you can sort by the number of queries. So how many times it's shown. Total conversions. So wasteful queries with no conversions here. And of course a high CPA. So just because it's converting doesn't mean it's worth spending money on. And again, to negative these, you just tick them, add as a negative, and you're done. Really simple. And if all the numbers are a little bit overwhelming, you can hide them. So you just got the color trend, and you can look for essentially queries like this that are all red and have been red for the past year, and add them as negatives. And in doing so, you're literally saving money every time you do this. Really potent tool, super easy, super quick to use. And if we jump back to single ngrams, we'll see that there are literally 25 pages of them, which would take you a while to do manually inside Google Ads. So this is something that you can add to your weekly routine. If you've got a large account or a mid-sized smaller account, you could do this bi-weekly or once a month, and it will just cut that wasted spend by a considerable amount of money, as you can see. For example, this account could negative these 3 queries and save over 100,000 euros a year in high CPA cost. Now, what you do need to balance, of course, is the volume of conversions. You might be happy to trade high volume conversions with a slightly higher CPA. So do use some common sense when you're applying negatives, and that's true of this tool as it is any other. But then no other tool does this. So there you go. Search Query Steroids. Add it to your weekly optimization routines.